In this video, we'll discuss some of the educational impacts of displacement on youth. What does displacement mean for a child's educational future? What are some of the common trends and experiences seen worldwide for displaced youth? These are some of the questions we're going to answer in the next few minutes. While the information we share may not perfectly describe the experiences of the child that you will be paired with in the youth mentoring program, we hope that this will widen your perspective and allow you to consider some of the factors that may possibly have played a role in shaping their educational journey or that of their siblings or parents. Around the world, children of refugee backgrounds often face limited access to education, receive lower quality of educational opportunities, or face significant interruptions in their formal education. As the number of displaced peoples grows daily, resources as well as physical infrastructure are stretched thin, limiting the ability to provide education for all who need it. Other challenges include prohibitive financial costs associated with schooling, as well as legal and policy barriers that limit refugees' living arrangements or movement within or to areas where schooling is available. 48% of all school-aged refugee children are out of school as a result of these challenges. Another trend seen among the displaced is the low quality of educational opportunities available. The first measure of educational quality is often in terms of student-to-teacher ratio, with 40 students to every 1 teacher considered the recommendation by UNHCR standards. In some countries of first asylum, this ratio is as high as 80 to 120 students per teacher. Beyond classroom size, teachers providing education in refugee contexts around the world are often poorly trained, difficult to recruit and retain, and lack quality materials for instruction. For these reasons, even those students who are able to access education in their countries of first asylum are likely to display skill mastery below grade level expected for their age, and that without considering the added challenges of English language upon their resettlement to the US. Pictured here is a classroom at Nyarugusu camp in Tanzania. In general, instructional methods in refugee contexts tend to favor teacher-centered instruction, with a heavy focus on lectures and a reliance on factual questions. In the classroom pictured here, it's easy to imagine some of these methods in action. A typical class might consist of a teacher reading out from a single textbook, with students memorizing word for word and repeating content back. In classrooms with high student-to-teacher ratios, there's often little room for individualized attention, and instead, large group choral chanting, often in a language that students may not fully understand. In our experience, it can be an adjustment for students to shift from the mindset of simply retrieving the correct answer and move towards a kind of learning that values original thoughts, opinions, and reasoning. Disruptions to students' formal schooling are common at various stages of migration. First and foremost, children may live in conflict zones prior to becoming refugees, where schooling opportunities may be limited, non-existent, or present high risk. In countries of first asylum, students may struggle to enroll in schools because of difficulties providing required documentation or meeting the minimum education levels to enroll. The gap in educational enrollment widens between the primary and secondary grades. Less than half of refugee children who start primary school make it to secondary school. This is particularly true for girls. As they get older, adolescents come under greater pressure to support their households. Collecting water or fuel, taking care of younger siblings or older relatives, and carrying out household chores are all tasks that fall heavily on girls. Students may face interruptions in other ways as well that can set them back. For instance, students may be required to transition from one language of instruction into another along their migration journey, even before arriving to the United States. A student may, for example, begin primary school delivered in English and Swahili, then, after migrating to a bordering country, switch over to a curriculum taught in French. These factors are dependent on individual countries' national curriculum, shifting policies around official language of instruction, as well as the language proficiency of available teachers. This scenario can result in students repeating content, gaining exposure to multiple languages, but attaining academic mastery of none. While students may be attending school consistently year after year, this factor certainly complicates their ability to keep pace with learning outcomes. A family's journey from initial displacement to resettlement can be laden with a number of adverse experiences, leading to traumatic stress or secondary trauma from parents and caregivers on youth. Students may have faced traumatic experiences during displacement related to disrupted family, school, or community life, the effects of war, violence, flight and displacement, lack of food, water and shelter, and uncertainty about the future. These experiences can persist after resettlement, as children and families adapt to new schools, navigate a new landscape, culture, and language, seek stable employment, and work to build a sense of community. Not all refugee background youth develop post-traumatic stress symptoms, but some may experience complex trauma that can have far-reaching effects on their mental and physical health long after the events have occurred. As a mentor, it's not your role to evaluate or diagnose a student's mental health or request an account of their trauma history. However, awareness of the possible factors that may play a role in your mentee's experience, past or present, will allow you to take a more sensitive and compassionate approach in how you understand and engage with your student. Should you recognize any significant signs of trauma or mental health needs, please communicate this with our staff to explore appropriate resources or referrals. In terms of education, displacement-related post-traumatic stress may impact a student's ability to focus, stay motivated, retain new information easily, or adapt to high-stress learning contexts. In their current context, students may face ongoing stressors related to acculturation, feeling marginalized, unseen, or facing discrimination in the school system or society at large. Despite these challenges, students and families of refugee background have a number of resources to draw from, such as strong family ties, strong coping skills, and engagement in cultural or faith communities that can serve as protective factors. Mentors and other individuals within a child's network of support can play a role to further foster resiliency, or the ability to bounce back and grow from challenges, thereby minimizing and overcoming negative outcomes of trauma for refugee youth. Regardless of the specific activities and academic goals you and your mentee might engage in during your sessions, there will be many opportunities to practice and build resilience, particularly when mentors see students' own strengths and potential as a lens for everything they do. We will provide a deeper look into strength-based approaches at a later time. We hope that this training has provided some context to help outline aspects of the refugee experience in your mind. As a mentor, it's important to recognize that not all students necessarily identify themselves or their family through the lens of refugee, or even fully comprehend what that label means. We encourage you to recognize the diversity that exists within refugee experiences and identities, and leave room for learning about your assigned mentee on their own terms, in their own words, based on your conversations and interactions. In addition, it's important to remember that not all students of refugee background necessarily have a history of trauma, and those that do should not be reduced to their trauma history alone. As you move forward with your mentoring journey, we hope you can develop an appreciation not only for the challenges, but also the incredible strengths that students and families in the youth mentoring program bring to the table, and how these lessons are the foundation for a positive outlook into a mentee's future.